Hey, Jordan, I'm curious about something. This is only your second year for Star. Going, I want to say a criticism, but we've also heard this comment a couple times about training program at Star. Very intense, a lot of accountability on the stopwatch all the time. However, you have somebody like Levi who left and notably said that he wanted to work more on his technique and try out different things during the week and focus on different things. And clearly for Levi, the overall change has been a positive. I think we saw in Supercross, Haiden go away for a week or two and kind of work on some stuff and feel better about that. Have you noticed from that perspective, like any of that feedback kind of changed the program that you guys have undergone over the last, year and a half or so you've been there? Has it changed the approach at all? Like, oh, maybe we do need to make a little more time for this or that. Or again, we just as fans or just we hear these things and it's kind of like, well, no, we already do work on that stuff. It's being overstated or it's not factual or quite correct what we hear.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some truth into that. We have, I would say, done a little, not much, but we have done a little bit more as far as, like before it was, just pretty much, like you said, like every moto is like on the clock, and just like really going as fast as you can. I would say over the past, honestly, like probably the past year, and even more like coming into outdoors this year, more so than during Supercross, we've done a little bit more of, maybe like an 80% moto where you're kind of working on something. We have a sand track in the trails that we just went out there one day, didn't even use pit boards or lap times or anything, just went out, rode, worked on what we needed to work on because everyone needs to work on something a little different. So, I have seen a slight change in the program a little bit, but, there's benefits and to everything, and not everyone needs, everyone can always be better with technique and stuff like that, but sometimes you need to just go out and grind those hard motos. So, we're finding I think a pretty decent balance of that.
Well, I've got you on the, I would say the level of like an openness and honestness. I have a interesting question for you that I've brought this up to a few riders and something that's unique about our sport. I guess it's one of those things like trying to explain to General Joe Blow, like what's going on here. So your contract with Star, I believe, is up at the end of this year. We kind of all have an idea of what your future looks like, but the way the sport is, there's not a way to confirm it in MotoGP and NASCAR and F1, things of that nature. Deals can be announced a year early. Doesn't really matter. From a rider's perspective, can you explain to us like why we don't hear about this stuff early? Is it truly as precise as something in your contract that like there is no announcement dates allowed? You guys are under what was it, like an NDA sort of situation? Is it that strict in moto compared to what we see in other sports?
Or can you tell us what's going on next week or next year?
Or as Jamie wants to ask,
I don't really know why our sport is so secretive, to be honest with you. It is very, compared to other sports, like there's no public knowledge of, how much we get paid, how long our deals are. It's all like hearsay, even I see stuff all the time about this person's deal, that person's deal. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's right. Like how long they have on the deal or whatever. And it's just like, everything is just what someone's heard. I don't know. I think that our sport could maybe benefit from a little bit more openness whenever it comes to that stuff. I don't know. Maybe, you could come out and just say exactly what's going to happen and nothing would happen. I don't really know. Right. So I guess that's a question for my agent. So, but, no, I don't know. It's, I wish that, I think there could be benefit in, some more public knowledge of kind of what we're racing for. It's been a little bit more public with, the SMX stuff. Like that's way more money than what has ever really been public knowledge of what we're racing for. Obviously you have Monster Cup, but that was, if someone went 1-1-1, they got the million, where SMX now is someone's making $1 million, in the 450 class, someone's making 500,000 in the 250 class. So, that's pretty cool. I think that, it could also possibly, open some people's eyes to why some of us would stay in the 250 class longer. If you saw, how much a top 3 250 guys making on, like after bonuses, that kind of stuff, compared to, if you go out there and you're not in the top 10 in the 450 class, and you don't get an offer to ride, like if you look at the 450 class, pretty much every single person on a factory 450 has won some sort of 250 championship. Mm-hmm. Like it is almost impossible to get a 450 ride without winning a championship in the 250 class, And so at the end of the day, like someone like myself, I have a family to provide for. I enjoy racing dirt bikes, but I need to make money at the same time. That's my job. And, and we make pretty good money in the 250 class. So, I don't know, I love to not be in the 250 class and be in the 450 and be able to make money and race against, the very top, like race the very top tier series in the world. Yeah, absolutely. But that's just not in the cards right now. So, I think that more public knowledge of kind of everything could possibly benefit. I'm sure that someday it will be, I think maybe with more, with more betting stuff going on now. I know that the NFL and stuff, it's a big deal if a team doesn't disclose that their player has an injury, because you have millions of dollars being bet on said player, and if they know that they're hurt, then it's a big deal. So
of course,
maybe that's gonna, I don't know if it's the same thing. I don't know why injuries are such a big deal in our sport either. Like if you're hurt, like I don't think that, like, I mean, at least myself, maybe there's people that will, but I know myself isn't going to be like, RJ, he has a hurt knee, like he has a tweaked knee, I'm going to try and like, which one is it? I'm going to go for that thing, I don't think anyone's thinking about that on the track, so. I mean, if you can race with it, you might as well, like, people might as well know about it. So.
I've always said with the injury one, especially, unless you're insanely good at keeping it wraps, if you're worried about your competition knowing, they know. Because, some chances are your teammate or one of the mechanics, it got to said rider on your team that you ate shit that week during the week. Yeah. Like, everybody kind of that is around it knows. It's only the fans that are in the dark, and then they're like, why is rider A sucking so bad? Yep. And then at the end of the season, finally, I was riding hurt all year. Okay. Yeah, you didn't really matter. Everybody in the line already knew you were jacked up, because as we all joke, we all look 100%. At you like that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone that you don't want to know already knows. So might as well just let everyone know. You know, it's crazy.
The pay one that drives me nuts a little bit. Like, I actually had this conversation. Me and Lewis were joking about this in our podcast. It's funny what you hear walking along the fence line at a national, what a fan thinks. And I was walking by a fan who was going on a Chance Hymas rant, actually.
Oh, wow.
He was telling his friend, he's out at Honda. Look how terrible he's this and this. I stopped him. I'm like, okay, tell me this right now. I said, who do you think's going to replace him? And he named off a couple guys. I'm like, nope, that guy signed, this guy signed, that guy signed. Like, nope, not happening. And he's like, well, all this money they've spent on him. And again, it's a little bit hearsay, but I'm like, what do you think he makes? And he threw a number out there, and I'm like, no, Chance doesn't make near that. Like, his is...
He's not making Jordon Smith money.
Well, because they're at HRC. They think of what Jet's making, and they're like, he's got to be making good. It's pretty surprising. You have probably, Jet going, if not currently the highest pay rider, will be on the next contract deal. Like, Jet, highest paid in the sport, and then... Chance is probably one of the lowest paid factory 250 level riders in terms of base pay. He has geared up, part of the other things of being a Honda, but I think it would change people's perspective on riders at certain teams, guys that are even on factory level teams on bonus only sometimes, or things like that, guys that are taking, they've been given a chance, but they're also willing to risk it in the sense of, I'm not getting paid, I'm here. I think it really would change people's perspective, and
if
teams are embarrassed enough to say it, maybe it'll help some of these guys make a little more as well. Like if the number's too embarrassing to say out loud, it's. I think I can only really see good in it, in the sense of, if it's an embarrassing number, it'll make people step up, and if it is what it is, again, it's a guy getting a chance on bonus only or something like that, then at least the fans understand, respect it. Like, hey, this guy's riding for a career and a chance at the moment, man. He's got nothing.
Yep, for sure. And I mean, that's, a lot of the fans would be very surprised at some of the numbers that people make, I think, and just in general, and like how many guys are, just trying to reboot their career, and they like, I mean, we love doing it, and we want it. It's what we know. And so, it's, I took barely any money at all to go race Firepower for a year, to try and reboot my career and, stuff. And, it's just, it would definitely, I think, I don't know how, you could, obviously, if it was more public, that would be cool. I think that would be cool too. Like, I think it would be cool if fans could see, like what the 450 guys, like I said, like a 10th place 450 guy, what they're making, or like what I could get offered in a 450 ride. Like, I'm not going to get any offers for a 450 ride right now. Like, it's just not really going to happen, So, what that number would be that I would be racing for versus what I'm making in 250, like maybe later on down the road, if that may be the fix of having more people in the 450 class, but you have to they would have to make the 450 teams pay a certain amount or something, I think that maybe like a world supercross where, it basically is like the teams have to field a certain amount of riders. So that way that the teams have the certain amount of riders on the track, and then have a minimum salary, kind of like the NFL or whatever, or maybe a salary cap in the 250 class or whatever. I don't know. But, it would be eye-opening for some fans for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Just a couple more for you, Jordon. Staying on that same topic, just staying in the 250 class, because obviously you mentioned not as many opportunities in the 450 class, certainly not as much money. Maybe if you were to move up, how would you feel if they decided to make the 250 class in Supercross just a national class? You race the entire series, and you never have to move up if you don't want to.
I think that it would be fine. I think though, if you're gonna do if this was gonna become reality, like you would have to AMA, Feld, whoever's gonna do it. I don't know who would put this rule in place. Probably Feld would require a team to run a certain amount of riders. Because if not, like it's going to become the same thing as the 450 class, where like teams don't want to sign someone that's going to run 15th place,
Mm-hmm.
Like it just doesn't really do them any good. And I think that would hurt the younger guys in the end, like where right now, a lot of young guys, whether they make it or they don't make it, a lot of guys get a chance, and the ones that, I mean, I've been in the class a long time, the ones that make it to 450, like they're good enough to beat, old guys like me. And so it's, they're just, I mean, I think that you have to keep giving those young kids opportunities. If I would just worry if you did a national class, then, Star right now, what do we have, like 7 or 8 guys going into Supercross? Like maybe that goes down to only 4 if you have a full thing, PC, or even, Husky has like 3 guys going into Supercross. Maybe that's only 2 guys or 1 guy if it goes to a full series, where we're doing every race. So I think that it would be cool as long as they could somehow put in some regulations to make sure that teams still had, like, there were still 20 factory rides or however many factory rides there are.